So I'm at e-bikeshop down in Farnham. I've come to talk to Martin about batteries. It's coming into winter now. Lots of important things to consider when you've got an electric mountain bike and batteries and battery technologies. It's about to be winter. Well, actually, it's pretty much winter now. It's December.
Pretty much, yeah.
Batteries are in all of our devices, our phones, our computers, our laptops, our mountain bikes. We've got a selection of batteries, and I wanted to get some advice from you on how to look after your battery. What do we need to do in the winter? Do we charge it? Do we leave it? Do we stick it in the shed, stick it in the garage? How best to look after it so you're going to maintain that battery life and really protect it. And then just take a look at some of the different battery designs, because you can get batteries that are short, stubby, long, thin, loads of different cool designs. So it's interesting to take a look at what the different brands are doing and how they're innovating in that area.
I mean, in terms of winter battery life, depends how you're using the bike, because if you're not using it at all, obviously there's different scenarios to storing it. If you're using it regularly, then great, it keeps the battery at optimum position. But I'd say in terms of storing it, if you're using it all the time, it's best to keep it inside if you can. So unfortunately it doesn't get too cold in the UK, but if you can keep it in room temperature, then that's great, rather than leaving it out in the shed if it's getting below zero. If you're going to plan to store it for say 6 months or longer, it's best to store the battery at part charge, so half to 3/4, rather than completely empty or completely full. And that really just helps the cells know where they are. If you're storing it at full capacity, it's at maximum capacity, so it's got a lot of stress on it, and vice versa for very low capacity. But I think the main thing, if you're using it through the winter, is just keep it topped up, so that every time you use the bike, you're topping it up, you know it's going to be fully charged when you go back to it the next time.
So you mean after you finish your ride, so you go out for a ride, smash it, use all the battery, come back, fully charge it?
Fully charge it, definitely. And it's better for the modern batteries, better to top up rather than let it completely discharge and try and charge back up. But having said that, the batteries do like to kind of know where they're at in the charge cycle. So not all of the time, say once a year or maybe once every 2 years, depending on how much you use it, it is good to do what's called a full conditioning cycle on your battery, and really that lets the battery then relearn where it's at in the process. So for example, what we do for a full conditioning cycle is completely flat it, completely charge it in one hit.
How do you do that? Go for a massive...
Just keep riding. Hopefully fairly close to home, and not keep riding in the wrong direction. Completely flat it, then charge it up completely, and then repeat that cycle. Because if, for example, you've got a commuter that's doing short stints all the time, that's just maybe doing 5 miles a hit, the battery's only using that very top section, it's draining, it's topping back up, and definitely in that scenario it's good to do a full cycle that lets the battery learn where it's at. So that's actually quite good to do, but vice versa, not all of the time, it doesn't need to be done. So it's definitely a good practice, but once or twice a year. Okay, cool. So if you're going out for a ride now, charge your battery when you're done. Yep.
So it's ready for the next ride as well.
Yep.
Keeps the battery in good condition. But if you are going to be away for a while, try and get it to that kind of 50, 60, 70%.
50 to 75, yeah. But even for the guys using it all the time, room temperature, store it cool in a dry place, so obviously there's less moisture in the house than there is outside in the garage or shed, and that's generally the best place to keep it. And it's just going to really keep the health of the battery over longer terms as well.
So what would happen if I just completely left it discharged after a ride in the shed and it was -6 for a month? Would it just deteriorate much quicker than it should do?
Yeah, it wouldn't be detrimental to the battery. With the modern stuff, it's very clever, but it's under quite a lot of stress and not required stress as well. So you know, if you can charge it, then great. But also, say for example, you're going to charge the battery and you just leave it on charge. That also has that effect as well, because it's holding the battery at full capacity, and also the modern charger is very good. It will communicate with the battery. every 12, 48 hours it might say to the battery, are you charged? Yes, I am. I don't need any more power. And it's just unneeded stress on the system. So, you know, for example, some people might have holiday homes and they might leave their bikes for 6 months where they're not going to use them in another country. It's best to not leave them on charge because it's just unrequired stress on that battery.
Yeah.
I mean, fortunately, like I say, the modern stuff's pretty good, so it's quite intelligent, whereas the old school stuff's a little bit different in terms of the communication between the battery and the charger.
Yeah, there's so much tech in there. There's so many cells in there as well, isn't there? They're made up of lots of multiple cells inside. I can see some advances in technology as well in terms of the charging, the fast charging that's coming. I think on the new Fly-On next year, it can charge to about 80% in an incredibly quick time, which is awesome. Because at the moment, I think mine takes 3.5, 4 hours to charge, but I'm really looking forward to a time when you can go out, use a load of battery, have a nice bit to eat at lunch, stick your bike on charge, and it almost fully charge within like that hour. That's incredible. What do you think of that stuff?
There's different ways of charging, different ways of using the batteries. Funnily enough, the Bosch man's just walked in here.
Is he? Is that the Bosch man?
He's try and get away
without
us mentioning him. But it might be a good opportunity for him to talk about, just very briefly, if he's not in a rush, compact charger, standard charger, and the fast charger that Bosch now actually do for these exact scenarios. And actually, interestingly, they're one of the few manufacturers that does 3 chargers for the same battery. How are you doing? All right? Good?
Hello, mate. I'm Rob.
We've met. Heaven Ride.
Oh yeah.
There's a camera on you.
That's right. Yeah. I probably stacked it.
I think you did actually. I said your ribs are right.
I'm getting better. So we got Mark from Bosch. We were just talking about batteries actually, and battery technology and all that good stuff. What's new in the world of Bosch? What's come in? What stuff can you talk about? What can't you talk about? Tell us about batteries and the technology that's in there.
Yeah, so I can't talk about anything that's coming up.
Oh, what?
I get sacked. I mean, this year, so developments in batteries for us is the same as it's been for the last year. So the Power 500 is the latest battery that we offer, which is the internal battery as opposed to this external down tube one. 500 watt hours is the biggest we currently do, but we do a new charger, which is a 6 amp fast charger, as we call it. So that would enable this 500 or a Power 500 to charge from flat to 100% in 3.5 hours, whereas the previous standard 4 amp charger would be 4.5 hours, or the 2 amp compact charger would be 7.5 hours.
Okay.
So it's like got 3 chargers in the range.
Yeah.
But that's all we're really doing at the moment, is that development in the charger. There's nothing else.
There's nothing else.
No.
But Bosch are a massive company. I'm sure there's loads of R&D happening, and
absolutely.
I'm really looking forward to a day when we can. Martin and I were just talking about being able to go out, use a lot of your battery, go for lunch, plug it in. It gets charged at a really, really quick rate. So maybe one day in the future that'd be something we might see.
It's interesting that Bosch have done 3 chargers there, because they're different for different scenarios of riding as well. Like if you want to stop for lunch, and the fast charger is great for that. But like the compact charger, if someone's touring and they haven't got much space, obviously the charger's slightly bigger, slightly smaller, and whatnot. So it's good that there is different applications.
It's also what we're seeing now is charging stations.
Right.
So we've developed a charging station, which is kind of a bit of a prototype pilot scheme currently. There's a couple in the Alps that we've got there. But we're talking more and more to UK dealers about this charging station in hire centres or forestry type areas where they can put something in there at some kind of hut where there's power. And that seems to be the biggest thing that people are talking about at the moment, is that kind of mid-ride charging thing. So having a fast charger in a charging station in the middle of the woods at a cafe or something would obviously give you a big benefit and add to your ride. It saves potentially carrying another battery. Well, that's the latest sort of thing that we're seeing at the moment, is this charging station.
Yeah, I think it's a really good idea. I think I went to the Malverns Festival last year, and it's in the middle of nowhere, so you got to work out how you're going to charge your battery. And I couldn't, because there's no means to charge. So charging locations, I don't know if that would be something that would be possible, but I think that would be a really good idea.
You think about charging on the fly, don't you now?
Yeah.
Or you're carrying a second one.
Yeah, but I like the design of this battery. I like the size of it. I've got a battery that's quite long, and it's really difficult to fit in a backpack. I can
Yeah.
just about fit it in a backpack at a massive squeeze, and that's a 500 watt, but I like the size of that.
Obviously it's an external battery.
Yeah.
It's pre-design of when internal batteries came into the market. So obviously the frames can, you know, integrate the size of the battery inside, but that obviously is the kind of limit of the size of a battery we can go to before it does become too big on the frame, on the outside, and it is too much of a bind to carry in your pocket. They become too big, it becomes too heavy. So size-wise, it's like an efficient size. It's easy to carry. You can buy a spare, or they're expensive, and put it in your backpack. It's not so sort of in your face. Whereas the bigger ones, or the internal ones, are that much bigger. It's a bit harder.
I mean, with the internal, obviously these come in horizontal and vertical here. But you know, it's the same capacity. So obviously completely different shape. It's longer but thinner, so there's always a side effect. Obviously from a visual you can put it in the frame, not on the frame, so I think there's pros and cons both ways.
But that is still backpack size, you know, that would fit in an Evoque backpack pretty easily.
And there's no real downside to that either, because I think a lot of people think, oh, internal, that means, oh, I can't take it out, I can't change, you know, I need to charge it on the bike, but these are just as easy to take out as the external batteries as well. So what's the weight difference, Mark?
So I think this is 2.9 kilos. I think this is about 3.1.
Right, so
don't quite me, but it's
just
slightly heavier.
In it,
it feels like
this is
aluminium casing.
casing.
So you need that to absorb the heat, or acts as a cooling fins inside. So it's designed to obviously take the heat out of the battery if on a hot day, because obviously you've got no airflow. Which
that's quite interesting.
That does,
because
doesn't have
this is getting no airflow at all, is it?
Exactly. So we need to have some sort of heat sink built into it. Therefore, it makes it heavier. The same capacity. It needs to work as efficiently. So with this design, it does.
So they're 500 watt. We're starting to see batteries of bigger capacity. What are your thoughts around bigger capacity batteries? Benefits, disadvantages? Obviously, more battery capacity is more weight.
It is.
What do users want? What are you hearing from?
Well,
from
they want
riders?
the bigger the watt hour, the better, isn't it? But sometimes if you've got a very torquey motor, obviously it depends how you ride the bike. But if the torque of the motor is high, the drain on the battery is greater. Therefore, the watt hours isn't actually going to give you that much more. Because it's going to drain more off it. Obviously, if you have more watt hour, more cells, you have a larger battery, which then you have to think about the frame design. If it goes on the outside like that, it's going to be very difficult. These bigger batteries, and you would know more than me, the internal ones seem to be of the larger watt hour. However, in my experience and from what Bosch is seeing, on the very small or extra small frames, it's difficult to fit these bigger internal batteries in. So the limit of the watt hour on the battery is kind of governed by the frame design, which is a problem that Bosch is seeing. And obviously we're working on this, and you know, we know where we can go with different size batteries and efficiencies and things like that.
I think it's just a case of being realistic as well. Like, we're all blokes and we want more, you know, it's top trumps at the end of the day. But you know, we could have a 1,000 watt hour battery, but it's going to be double the size, double the weight. Do we need it? Maybe not. You know, it depends on what you're doing.
Well, it goes back to the charging rate, or the charging stations. The ability to maybe put a compact charger in your back pocket, take that out of the cafe, give you an hour's charge, maybe less. That's a help. Or have a charging station with a 6 amp charger there. These things can pop up. They are popping up in the Alps that we've got them. So you've got to think about charging on a ride, not necessarily carrying a spare battery, or having a bigger battery with more weight and design issues with frames.
That might be more practical.
So you've got exactly. So there's things that are coming into the market which are helping things along a bit. So
it's a bit like if you've got a Tesla and you want to go to Scotland, you can't do it in a journey, right? There's specific charging stations. I can't remember what they're called, superchargers or something, but you can stop off on the way, grab some food and charge and then carry on. My personal preference is a lighter weight, actually. So on the bike that I'm riding, you can get a 500 watt hour or a 700 watt hour, but the 700 watt hour adds 3/4 of a kilogram to your bike weight, and that's quite a lot for me. I most of the rides that I do are a good few hours, and that's kind of enough. So I kind of like the 500 watt hour battery. We're starting to see some bikes next year, the Zesty, e-Zesty, come with an even lower rated battery of, like, it's half this, isn't it? So
and
you're going to get half the weight.
That comes back to Mark's point on the power draw and the torque as well. So yeah, different scenarios, different capacities, different power motors, depending on what you want to do. if you've got access to charging ports,
Yeah.
it's a whole world.
I think that's a great idea.
Yeah.
Thanks for chatting to us. And,
Cheers.
Alright, hope you like that. There's more of that video to come actually, so make sure you subscribe because we go on to talk about Bosch motors and all the different manufacturers' motors, so definitely subscribe and you'll get kept up to date with that next video when it comes out soon. Also, if you haven't already, check out emtbforums.com. It is the world's best electric bike community. It's really, really cool. Thousands of members posting all their pictures and all that good stuff. Loads of stories on the front page. Check that out. And check out the merch. I've got some really cool new jerseys there that are shipping all over the world. They're really great quality and you'll be able to really support me. Also, if you'd really like to contribute to the channel, you can via Patreon. Thank you to all of my Patreons who are making all of this possible. Massive thanks, and you're really helping me deliver all the best electric mountain bike content I possibly can. So I will catch up with you all soon. Bye.